the response. Sorry that due to the time constraint, we have to conclude our interesting session here. So thank you for all your attention and see you soon next time. Back to the organization.
Thank you so much, Dr. Trang. Now, we skip already the coffee break. Now we can have the coffee break. But due to the limited of time, we have to reduce the time also. So we will have 10 minutes coffee break. And for the virtual participants, you can take your own coffee cup and move so that you can have a more relaxed to join another session. Okay, thank you. For a participant in the room, may I invite you to have a group photo to the stage. So the coffee break will be 7 minutes. Please. For the next session is a poster presentation, National Policy Studies, which will be presented by our national researchers. May I kindly invite Mr. Feng Pano from Cambodia, Ms. Bui Tin Viet An from Vietnam, and then Dr. Zo U to the stage, please. Yeah. We will have a 2 minutes presentation for the poster. So it's going to be a rapid presentation after Mr. Fano finish, and then Ms. Viet An, and then Mr. Dr. Zoo. May I kindly invite to the stage? Yeah. Please, the poster number 1. Yes, please. 2 minutes. You may start. Yes. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wayne Pano. I am officer from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery, Cambodia. Yeah, maybe I have to go faster. This is my study that I have conducted during 2018. Yeah, you know, corn is the second most important crop commercial grow in Cambodia, and it supplies the third largest proportion after rice. And there are two types of crop in Cambodia. The white is for human consumption, and the yellow one is for animal feed. Farmers in Cambodia is grow throughout 24 provinces across the Cambodia, although some provinces comprise the bulk of mass production in the country. Is estimated to have annual production growth of 5% with the increasing of production from 0.9 million to tons in 2013 to more than 1.2 million in 2017. For the objective of our study, there are two. The first is identify the factor that influence on stakeholder perception and engagement in mass value chain. And the second, prepare policy recommendation for sustainable mass production and agricultural diversification to support smallholder in Cambodia. For our methodology, we have conduct for SGD, I mean two per one province. And we also interview with the extension staff in both provinces, 10 input seller, 7 local collector, or 5 semi-processor.
1 more minute.
And I will skip. For data collection, we get data from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery, and the the General Directorate of Agriculture. And other data we receive from various stakeholders in interviewing. We also conduct consultation workshop, and we use SPS tool to analyze our data. I will show you the map of corn value chain. In Patambong, farmers interact with input seller because they have to buy fertilizer, seed, and pesticide, and farmer sell their corn to trader and to the collector. Farmer in Battambang sell to trader about 70% because they cannot keep or storage their product. And collector have to buy some grain from the farmer. They have car, bus, and transportation to take the product from the farmer. For Tbong Khmum is the province near to the Vietnam border. It is have a bit different because farmers sell their product to collector about 80%. Because farmer in Tbong Khmum, they can do the manual processing by dry their product and then keep about 1 to 3 months before selling in order to get best price from the collector. And our key finding, province produce most production are close to Vietnam and Thailand. For example, near Thailand, we have 4 islands, Ban Tie Minh Chai, Bat Nam Bong, and Ho Lam Minh Chai. And Preven, Bong Khmum is near to the Vietnam border. The second one, farmer grow 2 crops of maize per year. Farmer can make net return from 500 to 600 per hectare. But if have any flood or drought or another damage from pest, the net income will reduce to 60 to $3,000. Collector can make from $5 to $7. Trader can make from $3 to $8, and exporter can make $3 to $4 per ton. I think this point I have explained already about the farmer in Battambang sells 70% to trader and collector because farmer in Battambang they have a large amount of land, so they can keep their product. They have to sell immediately after harvest. For the recommendation, we think we should develop and release a national mass hybrid seed.
5 seconds.
Thank you. We also have a hybrid seed already, but not yet established and released. And we have to strengthen the existing mass value chain. We have to increase business and standard of processing. Develop green agriculture and improve soil fertility and water management. Strengthen post-harvest practice such as drying, storage, and processing technology. And the last one is promote and enhance private sector and other credit organization. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now next, poster number 3, Miss Bui T Viet An from Vietnam.
Thank you, Anik.
Yes.
Because of limited time, so I will present in Vietnamese. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay, so on behalf of our center, I would like to talk briefly about the report that the center under IPSAT have conducted the study since 2017-2018 with the support of Zika project. I would like to share with you that we have used a lot of study method that we have, like analyzing through the policy brief. This is a rather interesting study for which we receive a lot of support from SECA. Yes, this is a project funded by SECA. We also received the lessons learned from Myanmar, Philippines, Cambodia. We have shared with each other a lot of experiences as well as a research methodology so that we can have the best research results. This is due to the limited financial resources. We just studied in Hanoi, Vietnam in 2017-2018. To better understand about this research, you can read more from the slide and also the poster on the lobby of this hotel. I just want to highlight that this study analyzed a big value chain in Hanoi, Vietnam. Hanoi is the capital of Vietnam, so the big the production may be representative for the whole country. We have already sent the research result to Hanoi Department of Agriculture and Rural Development and Department of Animal Health of Hanoi to give the policy input for the livestock production sector of Hanoi, and also to give advice to the Department of Animal Health and Department of Agriculture and Rural Development of Hanoi, so that they can issue the proper policy. The research result also help us to come up with the policy recommendation for the Ministry of Agriculture of Vietnam. Taking this opportunity, I'd like to thank SECA, IFPRI-South for funding us to conduct this research. We hope that in the future we will continue to have other studies to share experiences with each other. Thank you.
Pulse study in Myanmar, Dr. Zhou Wu.
Thank you
Yes,
very
you may
much. This is the case study prepared by our research assistant, and then unfortunately she couldn't come, so I'm presenting for her. I also wanted to highlight the two key aspects of Pulse's value chain. As you can see in the very lower part, as I said in this morning, Pulse was one of the major export revenue earner in Myanmar, and we export mainly to India. As you can see, we export two pulses, Tua and Urat, Pigeon Pea and Black Gram. And the Indians also buy mostly from Myanmar. So this is a situation which makes us very interesting to look at it. In fact, we had a very good discussions with the IFPRI team about how to actually make a long game so that both India and Myanmar can actually benefit from it. But unfortunately, there was some sort of a crisis stemming from India, and then they were imposing the quantitative restrictions, and then we also made a case study on that. Then actually there were 4 lessons learned, and I think that one of the Professor Seymour mentioned about the within sector productivity boost. I suspect that that must come mostly from the pulses sector, because that's within the last 20 years, pulses sector grew very fast, mainly due to the increasing demand from India. And then so basically we improve a lot through the seed inputs and also the credit. But unfortunately, what we didn't do enough is on the marketing side, where we still rely very much on Indian market, and we were not being able to diversify to South Asia and Middle East markets. And then it was the India who actually added value and then actually resell it with good profit margin. And then also the financing. And agriculture is one of the poorest area where we attracted very low investment, also from the foreign investors. And then, in fact, India was one of the major investor in my country, but they haven't really invested anything in the pulses sector. And this is where we wanted to actually do more in terms of attracting a good investment into the country. And then the last one is about the how we can transform the sector by adopting more digital agriculture, so that and then also other innovative schemes like a warehouse receipt system, so that we can actually have the better foundation to trade more effectively and efficiently with the large markets like India. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for Mr. Pano from Cambodia, Mrs. Fit An from Vietnam, and Dr. Zou from Myanmar. Thank you. Round of applause for this presenter. For those who are new to the ATMI-ASEAN, this national studies conducted by national researcher and become the baseline of the recommendation for the project. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Mamta Pradhan, Research Coordinator of IFPRI-South, who will lead moderating the next session, session 3, COVID-19 responses. Please.
Good afternoon. I am Mamta, and I'm from IFPRI, and Namaste from India. So I'll be moderating the session on COVID-19 responses. May I request, we have 4 panelists. May I request the first 2 speakers, Ms. Maria Regabe and Ms. Marigaz Bernice Galang, to please come on the stage. We have Dr. Kanika Mahajan and Dr. Trang, who will be joining us virtually. If you have not registered, this is an all-woman panel. As we all realize that COVID was not just a public health crisis, it was probably one of the biggest economic crisis and a development crisis. It taught us things that things need to be looked at a more integrated fashion. Though it was uniformly a COVID crisis for all places, but there were significant differences in the way the effects of COVID occurred and the responses and the coping strategies. So in this session, we are going to have presentations on several innovations in the agri-food sector, and some of which really offer significant and possibilities of cross-learning and preparing ourselves for different possible shocks and make the system more resilient. With that, I will invite our first speaker. There will be a joint presentation by Ms. Lani, we fondly call her, and by Ms. Bernice, as we very proudly call her. Okay, so Ms. Lani Regbe is the Asia Pacific Regional Program Manager of the Asian Farmers Association for Sustainable Rural Development, AFA. She's currently managing program covering 22 countries in Asia Pacific geared towards strengthening farmer organization. She's also concurrently the policy advocacy manager of AFA, working on constructive engagements of farmer organizations. And for the past 30 years, she has worked mainly in agriculture and rural development. Our next, the joint speaker would be Ms. Bernie Gala, and she has a degree in sociology and has a pending master's in history. She is currently engaged in the monitoring and evaluation officer of IFAD and EU-supported projects implemented by the consortium of AFA and La Via Campesina. Okay, so the presentation is Coping with COVID-19 Shocks, the Farmer Organization's Way. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we start our presentation, Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Okay, maybe invite everyone to please stand up to make sure that we have the energy for the next 40 minutes. Everybody, please stand up and let's do some stretching. So before we start, because we are working with the farmers, let us start by picking some flowers. So let's bend down to the right and pick flowers, bend down to the left and pick the flowers, and bend forward to pick the flowers. Not only flowers, we're also picking up fruits, harvesting fruits. Okay, pick the fruits from the right, pick the fruits from the left, pick the fruits everywhere. All right, okay, son, thank you so much. That is the farmer's way.
And that's what all women panelists do.
Is this okay? Thank you so much. Okay, so yeah, it's there. So I can look over there. It's a high-tech means of conference, a hybrid one. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. We thank IFPRI and of course IFAD for this wonderful chance to be sharing with you a survey, which is the context by which is, first, it is short. The time element is short. We started February. We started the data gathering in May, and now we are presenting to you partial findings of this survey. And the report is still going to be done this June. So, and secondly, the set of data just came Sunday, so we crammed, honestly speaking. But we are happy to be part of this conference and share with you some of the findings. Where do I click, from here or from there? Here. Everywhere. Okay. So secondly, okay, that being said, let me just share that okay, so this is the presentation outline. Okay, so we're going to present to you the brief profile of the respondents, the findings, and the takeaways and the policy implication. Okay, all right. So briefly, there are 2 slides for the respondents' profile. First, let me share with you that this survey was conducted in 3 countries of Laos, Philippines, and Vietnam. We interviewed 63 farmer organizations across the 3 countries with 1,146 individuals. There are more coming. We have still more than 100 surveys still to be encoded in the ODK system. But out of these 1,146, 119 are leaders of the organizations, and 1,027 are members of the organization. 49% of the respondents are female, and the average age is 49. As you will see from here, please direct your attention to the 4th set of graphs there, the level of education. If you will see there, our farmer respondents are quite educated. No? They reached 8 years of education. That's the lowest. The highest is in Vietnam with 11.2 reaching, with a great number of farmers reaching up to 11.2 years of education, and 10.2 for the members, 11.2 for the leaders, 10.2 for the members. And take note that more women are highly educated compared to men by a little percentage, but it's good to mention since this is all women panel. So a bias for women. I'm sorry that I have a wrong number there. It's supposed to be the potentially rich farmers are from Vietnam, having potential savings of $36 per month. But we feel that this is understated. If you look at the real score or the real income of farmers, I think this could go higher. So that's not 62, it's supposed to be 36. Okay, moving on. Okay, So just to give us an idea of what we're going to present, what we asked these 1,146 farmers, we asked them 3 clusters of information. First is the status of the organization. Second is about the farm registry. And third is how they coped with COVID-19. Okay, so we have around, how many slides? I think 36 tables for the FO status, the status of the farmer organizations in these 3 countries, but we are going to present only 2 because we are given only a little amount of time. Okay, so first, let us share with you that these organizations are actively engaged in activities, organizational level activities. And what are these? These are production, of course, like Devesh said earlier, because that's what they do, produce. But other than production, they are also engaged as an organization with other activities like marketing. If you see here, we are tapped by Lao Farmer Network. One of our colleagues are here on that table over there. Hi, Keo. And of course, branding, which is topped by Vietnam. Vietnam is very much into branding of products. And aggregation, especially in Laos, because they are organized according to commodity. And lastly, I cannot read. Okay, certification, which is also topped by Laos. And there is also certification ongoing here in Vietnam, a little in the Philippines. Okay. Okay. And then the second is ensuring accountability. Out of the 36 or 37 tables, we are interested to share this with you because why? Just to show you how farmers are accountable, how they feel accountable for the organization, and what kind of participation do they give to the organization to make sure that the organization is kept accountable for its existence, no? Accountable for its partners, accountable to its environment, to its members. And what are these activities to ensure the accountability of organizations? What do members and leaders do? First, they participate in meetings. They know that among the most basic activities of members is to attend meetings. Second, pay dues. Do you pay taxes? Okay. They also pay dues to the organization. They proactively mitigate if there are conflicts within the organization. They make sure that they stay in peaceful harmony with each other despite the differences and in opinion and other things that may come along the way of implementing and managing the organization. And lastly, participation in resource generation in many different ways. No? So we are not going to outline all of those things. Okay, so now for the second part of questions, we are going also to share 2 slides on the farm registry. And this is a very interesting information to share with you. Like, so you see this table here, the farm registry that we know, that we understand to be like the registry of the individual farmers at the national level, so that there can be a centralized means by which the government can provide support to the farmers. No? So that is not the idea that the farmers have, except probably for the Philippines, where 60.7 or 0.8% of 67.8% of respondents said that they are registered in government registry system. Okay, but generally speaking, thanks for Roy for coining the term farmer organization recognition system. So this is a way by which the farmer organization can be legally registered so that they can transact business in the legal terms. They can open bank accounts, they can transact with leaders, etc. Okay, and given that, let's see that in Laos, 84.5% are registered at the district level. That means their membership is recognized at the district level, where they are grouped according to commodity. In Vietnam, the farmers recognize their registry as member of the Vietnam Farmer Union. the national organization of farmers here in Vietnam. But in the Philippines, there is a 67.8%, as I said earlier, that are registered in at least 2 registry system of the government. But even so, if you look at the second slide, if you look at the Philippines there, okay, the column of the Philippines, those who receive or get avail of services from the government, having been registered to a government registry system, those who received services are only 0.9%. And you see that not applicable is the highest in score across the 3 countries. So it also goes to say that there seems to be not much difference whether you're registered or not in terms of receiving services from the government. Okay, so these are the benefits that the farmers get to mitigate COVID shocks in different aspects, focus on market, etc. And lastly, these are the sets. According to survey, these are the responses of farmer organizations to COVID-19. That includes focus on new market, change of previous buyers. And I'm going to invite my colleague here, Lani Rebagay, to share with you the role of farmers in mitigating COVID-19. So, Lani?
Thank you very much, Bernie. Aside from the research supported by IFPRI, IFAD, we also have other researches, no? And we draw some of our reflections and insights based on, you know, in our country, we are encouraged to use the face mask. But here, Vietnam has a very good COVID management. So, okay. So aside from the IFPRI and IFAD funded research, we also have other sources of our reflections and insight. We have our own survey, no? We conducted internal survey among AFA members and partners. And we have a collaboration with other groups like FAO through the Farm and Forest Facility and also with IFAD, no? And we had various online consultations, focus group discussions, and webinars, no, on the role of farmers' organization during COVID. And lastly, we implemented a COVID response program. We call it ARISE, no? Assuring Resiliency of Family Farmers Amidst COVID. And in all those, in this research supported by IFPRI and all the other sources, we realized that farmers' organizations played a very crucial role as reliable service providers, no, in times of pandemic. And what are these roles? We can classify this role in 3 parts. Farmers' organizations have actively engaged in relief operation, like preparing food packs, having a community kitchen, and then also in rehabilitation, no? The outright response is really the relief, no? And then the rehabilitation, more on awareness raising on how to cope with COVID, health-wise and economic-wise. And the more important role is really on recovery and rehabilitation, no? So after the first few months of COVID, the farmers' organization also moved into a more proactive and strategic action on building markets, new logistics, like establishing farmer online shop, to provide ways for consumer to order from them and a way to deliver it through by simple motorbike. No? So these are the roles played by farmers in 3 aspects: relief, rehabilitation, recovery, and resilience. What are our major takeaways based on these surveys and based on our experience? We would like to assess our role in terms of 3 indicators, in terms of scope, scale, and speed. Because all actors all players during COVID have performed their own role. But we would like to assess our role in terms of this indicator. in terms of scope, scale, and speed. And based on our findings, we can say that there is efficiency and effectiveness of utilizing federated structure of farmers from regional to national to local as reliable conduits, no? Through a regionally coordinated and locally implemented response. Why can farmers do it at more speed and more scope? These are some of our findings. One, the local FO structure with own accountability governance, coordinated through federation, ensure geographic scope. Like what Dr. Roy mentioned, no? There is this combination of the size of farmers' organization. They're organized at community level, district level, and provincial level. But if these farmers' organization stay only at their level without a federated structure, then the efficiency and effectiveness will be less. But on our experience, the most important is to federate, to network these various farmers association so that there can be scale and there can be scope. And with that scope and scale, there is speed because there is established communication network among them. There's direct knowledge of local realities. There is the context. The farmers organization readily get feedback from the ground. What is the need? What is the specific food packs that is needed? So we realize that it's not only food pack, but seed pack that is needed by the farmers, no? Because they do not have access to agricultural inputs. And at the same time, this communication network is also able to coordinate what are the capacities, what they cannot do and what they can do well. And the third is the rootedness to local situation allows farmers organization to exercise flexibility, use appropriate tools, procedures responsive to farmers. Because if it's centrally designed, then it's like one size fits all. But because of this federated structure, we can customize, no, the support based on the feedback from the ground. And fourth, the information asymmetry is addressed. The intended recipients are welcome, well known to the FO since they have prior record membership data, which makes the cost of knowing your client less and more reliable. The less costly service delivery, lesser channels, simpler procedures, and the proximity to farmers. I think this is the second to the last slide, sorry. In terms of sustainability of intervention, there is shared risk and benefit between the farmer and the organization. Like in the case of the ARISE program, we provided revolving fund. It's a recoverable grant in times of pandemic. Even it's not pandemic, many groups are awarded to engage in this recoverable grant. But based on our experience, in time of necessity, farmers are in strong solidarity. They don't get the fund for themselves only, but they feel responsible. They have to return the fund so that their other members can also use this. So the risk and the benefit is shared. And FO's capacity to undertake claim making, non-negotiation, bargaining, and collective action to access both relief, emergency, recovery, and resiliency responses from government and other stakeholders at local and international level is available because of this aggregation structure. One example is the regional grant of IFAD to FOs increases the opportunity to create synergy between national government, public sector, and farmers organization at the country level, which will complement the country portfolio of IFAD, and the regional grants of IFAD to FOs increases this chance to work together because farmers organization becomes useful to government. No, they are not merely dependent to government, but they can do the leveraging of resources. So lastly, what is the policy implication of these learnings and findings? One is to have this paradigm shift that farmers organizations are not beneficiary alone. They are reliable service providers. and conduits. No? So if we will have this mindset, there are important policies that needs to be in place so that we can harness this role of farmers organization as service provider. One, in terms of program, we call on governments and partners to invest, no? Give more investment in strengthening the business development services or the BDS of farmers organization, particularly along inclusive and sustainable value chain. Shorter supply chain, more resilient, flexible and responsive routes to markets, and through institutional purchases, no? Like hospitals, like governments providing benefits to their employees so they can access it directly from farmers organization. And lastly, we need policies and programs supporting favorable policy supportive of recognizing FOs as service providers. One, legal framework to register federated FO structure. There are still countries with absence of registration policies. No? So they cannot federate themselves. There is no legal framework that allows them to federate themselves. There are local policies for local registration, but no policy to aggregate themselves. And second is to relax very stringent policy, which sometimes they are tailored only for those big consultancy firms, no? And farmers cannot cope with those very stringent requirements, like assets, like the computerized accounting system. And because of this, they are disqualified to become service providers. So these policies should be relaxed so that farmers organization who are credible, no, and membership based can can be service providers. So with that, thank you for extending the time, and we thank IFPRI for allowing us this opportunity to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lani, and thank you, Bernie. And I think it was a very insightful presentation. And what really struck me is the issues around farm registry and how nuanced it can be, you know, in different countries. Thank you for that. And let me also acknowledge it's a privilege to work with AFA for the energy that you bring to the research study. Thank you so much. Our next presenter is Dr. Kanika Mahajan, who will be presenting virtually on COVID-19 and agri-food market. Dr. Mahajan is an assistant professor of economics at Ashoka University, Sonipat, India. Her primary research interests include empirical development economics in the field of gender, labor, and agriculture. And as part of her research agenda on gender and labor, she's currently working on issues around stagnation of women's labor force participation in urban India and decline in female employment in rural areas. In the context of COVID-19, her research examines a resilience of supply chains in agriculture and manufacturing sectors in India. Over to you, Dr. Mahajan. You have 10 minutes to present. Please unmute yourself and put your slides on the slideshow mode. Thank you.
Thank you, Mamta, and thank you for having me here as part of this session. I assume you all can see my slides. So the paper that I'm presenting, the work that I'm presenting today is co-authored with Shekhar Tomar at Indian School of Business, and this paper primarily looks at the effect of the COVID-19 induced lockdown and its effect on availability of food in certain cities in India. Now, immediately in 2020, when COVID-19 outbreak happened, India introduced a national lockdown. It announced a national lockdown on March 24th, and it eased only up to May 31 after a sequential easing of restrictions. And during this time, almost all economic activities in India were curtailed except those which were essential. Sorry, I was not able to move my screen for some reason. We use data from the time period of March 1 to April 14 in 2020. We use two data sets. We use one data set that comes from an online grocery retailer, as well as data from agricultural wholesale arrivals in India, which are collected in various mandis. We use an event study designed to estimate the effect of the lockdown. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, I would have convinced you that a lot of the effects that we see are actually coming from supply chain disruptions. The online retail data was collected from a grocery retailer, which almost spans 70% of the grocery market in India. Unlike aggregators like Amazon, this delivery chain specializes in grocery delivery. We have data on 3 cities, Delhi, Kolkata, and Chennai, and what we have is product name and sale price. We have this data for 4 categories of products: vegetables and fruits, edible oils, cereals, and pulses. Approximately, these products constitute 65% of the urban food basket in India. Amongst the vegetables and fruits, we look at 22 major commodities, which constitute 85% of the basket, whereas for edible oils and the other commodities, we use all the products available. On the wholesale side, we use data collected from primary agricultural markets called mandis. Here we have data available from 2 cities in the set, since we keep the set the same as in our online data from Delhi and Kolkata. This information is not collected for the city of Chennai on mandis. Here we have data on the commodity name as well as the quantity which was traded in these mandis. However, this data is only available for vegetables and fruits. Again, we restrict our analysis to the set of 22 commodities which are also available in the online data. Apart from these data on quantities available as well as prices of these quantities which are sold in online and retail markets, we also hand collect data on the distance of the manufacturing units for the edible oils from each last city point of sale. We collect this data manually, and then we calculate the road distance from each manufacturing, from the nearest manufacturing plant to a particular city, and we're able to do this for 93% of the edible oil brands. We then take an inverse of distance for our regressions. For calculating the distance to production for vegetables and fruits, we basically use the state-wise horticulture production data. So what we do is that we calculate the distance between each state capital in India and the 3 cities in our data sets. And then we construct a production weighted index by inverting the distance and then weighting it by the production contribution of that particular state towards that commodity. Our strategy, as I mentioned earlier, is basically looking at the time period immediately after the lockdown and before the lockdown, and we have 2 major dependent variables. One is availability of a product, which takes a value 1 if a product J of commodity I is available in city at a particular date, else it's 0. Our price variable is log of price. On the right hand side, our lockdown variable takes a value 1 for the period of March 25 and April 14, when the first national lockdown was in place, whereas the total time period is from March 1 to April 14. So March 1 to March 24 acts as the pre-period for us. We control for unobservables at product city, as well as for controlling for each day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the patterns can be different across different days. So we control for all these variables. On the wholesale data, our dependent variable is basically the log of the quantity arrivals in a particular mandi of commodity I in city C on a date T. Again, the definitions of lockdown as well as the pre and the post period remain the same in both online as well as wholesale data analysis. So what do we find? We find that immediately post the lockdown, there was a drastic reduction in online availability of vegetables and fruits, edible oils. We don't see much action happening on cereals and pulses in our online data. So what was happening to commodities? So we then look at the heterogeneous effects by the distance that each edible oil brand and particular veggies and fruits would take to come towards a particular city center for final sale. And what we find is that the entire negative effect of availability was basically coming from edible oils which were being procured farther from a particular city. So if an edible oil was being manufactured near to a city, there would be no reduction in availability of that oil in the online market. Similarly, for vegetables and fruits, what we find is that almost half of the reduction in availability is explained is not there for products which were being procured near to the cities rather than being procured farther from the city. So this result in a way shows that there was a role played by supply chain disruptions during the lockdown in affecting the supply of these commodities in these urban retail centers. We find similar results for wholesale markets as well. We find that immediately post the lockdown, there was a 20% reduction in quantity arrivals in these markets. However, for products that were being procured from very near to the center, there was almost no reduction in these arrivals. The fall is completely explained by products which were coming from farther distance, basically. So, our results on the distance to production basically show the mechanism of supply chain disruption. What about other mechanisms? There could be a fall in demand, but I'll show you in some time there was little persistence when it comes to edible oils. What about panic buying? There were constraints on in online delivery. So panic buying couldn't really happen in the Indian context immediately after lockdown. Even labor force was not available, and almost all the food and market kirana stores were completely shut down. So we don't really think that panic buying really led to a lot of things we see. It was largely the supply chain disruptions which led to a reduction in availability of these commodities. So what about persistence? What we find is that for vegetables and fruits, there was some persistence even beyond the national lockdown in availability of these commodities. However, for edible oils, there was almost a bounce back. These bounced back after the first national lockdown was lifted. In terms of stickiness of prices, what we find is that online prices didn't really increase too much in response to a reduction in availability of these commodities. They were much more sticky. However, in the wholesale markets, there was a drastic increase in the sale price of especially vegetables and fruits, which almost increased by 16% during the first national lockdown in India. So to conclude here, what we find is that COVID-19 induced lockdowns led to supply chains being more fragile, and this is reflected in a greater disruption in availability of products that were traveling longer distances to come towards the final point of sale. And this would definitely have led to a larger income loss for farmers who are situated much further from these retail sectors, and especially those who were producing perishables here. So in terms of policy implications of our findings, we think that investing in warehouse facilities, ensuring that there are minimum transportation bottlenecks when there are natural disasters like pandemics or other natural disasters for that matter, as well as strengthening local procurement pipelines can go a long way in strengthening the future supply chain in the food sector. So let me stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahajan. I think that was spot on 10 minutes. Thank you so much for that. Your presentation actually talked about how important the markets are when they're coming up in a system in dealing with shocks. And India is actually somewhat unique from the perspective that it has got a big footprint of public programs in the food system, because I work on the social safety net programs. So whatever adjustments happen in the markets have to be actually in conjunction with these big programs. Thank you so much, Dr. Mahajan. Our next speaker is Dr. Trang. Welcome back again. And she has, Dr. Trang has more than 20 years of experience in agriculture and rural development. Before joining as the director of the Center for Agriculture Policy, she has taken positions relating to research and management at the Institute of Policy and Strategy for Agriculture and Rural Development, and has been a consultant to many domestic and international institutions, such as Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Committee for Ethnic Minority Affairs, and the list is quite long. Dr. Trang will present on changes in Vietnam agriculture supply chain in the context of COVID-19. Over to you, Dr. Trang. You have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Could you hear me clearly now? I now share my screen. Could you all see my screen? Hello, is it
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
So, right.
You can
Yeah.
start.
So thank you all, and yeah, for staying with us until this point, and I'd like to present on the changes in Vietnam agricultural supply chain in the context of COVID-19. Include three parts. First, about an overview of Vietnam agriculture, then the impacts of COVID-19 on the agricultural supply chain in Vietnam, and some recommendation. Here is a picture of Vietnam agriculture in 2021. So in economic term, you can see that the contribution of agriculture in total GDP 6%. But agriculture still create job for almost 30% of the total labor force, and most importantly, most of the poor and ethnic people still relied on agriculture as a main livelihood.
Sorry, is there a problem with the internet?
The COVID-19 in Vietnam, until now, we ongoing. Could you hear me now? Is it okay?
Dr. Trang, your internet connection is a bit weak.
Excuse me, Trang. Chị Trang ơi, nếu trong trường hợp mà internet của chị kém thì chị chỉ cần nói thôi, bọn em ở trên hội trường bọn em sẽ share cho chị ạ.
Thế mình tắt cái screen nhé.
Vâng, ok, chị chờ bọn em sẽ share cho.
Okay. So yeah, sorry for the technical problem. So there's the meeting room. Yes, and we now see in the fourth wave of COVID-19, and this is the longest wave. At least we hope that we now pass the peak. I think the peak in March 2022, when we have about 200,000 per day, and now we have about 1,000 only. So it's improved situation. Next slide, please. Previous slide, please. Yes, thank you. So again, one more on the important role of agriculture. You see that during a difficult time like in COVID-19 time, the agriculture provide like cushion for the economy. And in 2021, the growth rate of agricultural sector is higher on the national GDP growth rate. We have also have problem with livestock subsector in the second chart. Is due to the African swine fever. It's not much related to the COVID-19, but also the livestock subsector has other similar problem like other subsector, as I will mention later. Next slide, please.
Dr. Trang, please continue.
And you can see, yeah, thank you. The agricultural international trade reduced a bit in 2021. It's I mean the trade surplus, but the total trade volumes is still increased. That is a positive point. And the next, please. And fortunately, we can still enjoy the positive growth rates of most of major agricultural products, except tea. Next, please. The strong growth rate, especially in industrial crops. Yeah. And now about the impacts of COVID-19 on the agricultural supply chains. You can see that over the chains, all the affected, from the input supplier to producer to processor, traders, and consumer. It's not just from the COVID-19 itself, but also from the measure to cope with the pandemic, including the lockdown in 2020. And now we have really difficulties in trading with China as the zero COVID strategy. So the procedures for exporting to trade. Next, please. Next, please. I will now go to so different stakeholders in the supply chain have COVID-19, and most of them have to choose to diversify their marketing channel, and many of them move to online trading. And there are many initiatives from the government, especially the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, in helping farmers and other stakeholders to deal with the difficult times. We have a green land for agricultural trade, and we have established the special task force to deal with trade issues, especially with China. And the Ministry of Trade and Commerce push up the negotiation and open new market in the traditional markets. Next, please. Next.
Dr. Trang, are you there?
About the impact on production, we have a problem of increasing costs all over the subsectors, especially in fishery subsector. And also the problem of labor shortage and the higher preservation and storage costs. And as the output price, so that means lower margin, lower profit for farmers. Next, please. Next, please. Sorry for my internet connection, so maybe I have a lack of, on slideshow. So about the impact on the trade, we also have the reduction in price, exporting price of most of agricultural products, except rice. and tea. And in domestic market, on one side, farmers have, on the other side, especially in the lockdown times. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah, so about the challenges posed by COVID-19, the pandemic still remains, so we still have the problem with disruption in the supply chains with higher logistics and production costs, and that's affect our in the consumption preference, like people shopping, and therefore they ask for branding products, things like that. And you also have the problem with market instability and the free trade areas agreements brings about both opportunities and challenges, and we have new we have to cope with new requirements from our market, like for environment-friendly products, no deforestation related products, and we have to contribute to the reduction of green emission to contribute to the net zero coming to 2050, things like that. So next, please. So from that, we would like to make some recommendation. In the next slide, I think the most important is we would like to focus digitalization. In fact, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development developing the plan for digitalization in the sector, and we hope that that's the way to go over the obstacle posed by the COVID-19. Still follow the other measures, like keeping with the negotiation to open market access, and ask for our trade representative in the import countries to have to connect and realize that we still have the coming in information system. We do not have updated like information on the policy of importing countries to provide to the stakeholders in the value chains, and that's obstacle. If could be solved, that would help a lot. And also, yeah, have like the control service of disease and pests, like to deal with the African swine fever, and also the facilitation to have with exporting to high-end market, like now we have some facilitation in the facility in the south, and we plan to have a new one in the north to facilitate the trade all over the countries, and it is enterprise and have to reduce production costs. So that's some key recommendation that we would like to propose. And that also the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and sorry for the disruption due to the internet problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Trang, and we are really sorry for the bad internet connection. We apologize for that. And Dr. Trang, please give her a big round of applause because she's down with COVID. Despite that, she made that effort to present online, and despite the internet connection, she made all the effort to be there. Thank you so much, Dr. Trang, and it was a very comprehensive presentations, and I'm sure that will circulate amongst our participants. I will just open the forum for just 2 questions because we are running late. So we have 2 hands up. So I'll stop with that. And I think on coffee break or dinner, you can have bilateral discussions on the topic. The first one, Dr. Briones.
Thank you, Mamta. So my first question is for the tandem of Bernie and Lani. So I would like to share your optimism about farmer organizations being a delivery system for services. But reality is, for instance, in the Philippines, I don't know about Laos and what's the other country? Vietnam. Only as of 2012, the last survey they conducted, less than 20%, about 19% of farmers are members of a farmers organization. 2020 survey of the Annual Poverty Indicator Survey said that only 1 out of 8 households have at least one member who is a member of a cooperative. Not necessarily farmers, no, any cooperative, any household. So given that, how is it? Because if the outreach of these organizations is very limited, how can it serve as that vehicle? My other question is for Dr. Kanika. I'm really envious of that data set you're able to gain access to. And I think you made a wonderful analysis of its contents. I'm just wondering about whether you're able to explore alternative. I do buy it that supply disruption must be the main explanatory variable for the stock outs, but maybe you can also try to look at maybe some alternative like proliferation of alternative marketing channels that could have also diverted sources from your main data sets, like your big online retailer. Maybe they were just competing with all of these smaller proliferation of online sales or mini kiosks, which I saw in my country during COVID. Another thing is, in your recommendation, I found it a bit odd that you promoted warehouses, but you include perishables there. So that could work only if you invest in supply chain, cold chains, I think, especially for the long distances. But I don't think the study, I think we need a little bit more justification before we make such a big investment in a more extensive cold chain storage system for perishables. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we take the second question and then, yeah? Okay, Dr. Divesh.
Yeah, thank you. Just I have like one question for Kanika and one for Dr. Tang. Actually, so Kanika, we are all now in Vietnam, and this project is about the ASEAN countries. So, and there was a really exceptional behavior in terms of what was happening in relation to edible oil. And 60% of edible oil to India goes from here, right? ASEAN countries, which is Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia. And and there were things about that, even though initially we thought that this supply chain disruption would be really exceptional in case of edible oil, but in COVID shock, the trade actually bounced back very quickly, the international trade. And this, your distance measures, which are, if you look at from a distance perspective, then edible oil would be the real case for distance between the production, consumption, separation. So that is one thing that, how do you really see any particular way that, why edible oil was so exceptional given the import penetration that edible oil has from this region, which is ASEAN. Now, to Dr. Tang, I had this one question, which is not like just a question, but a clarification. That Vietnam was pretty exceptional in the COVID response of putting quantitative restrictions on exports. immediately as COVID struck? And how did this have an effect? Because in the 2008 food price crisis, when Cambodia really kept its exports open, they made a lot of gains. So I just wanted to see what is the experience of Vietnam in relation to all these export restrictions, which was little unusual for Vietnam with all this capacity and that it has in terms of rice, the second largest exporter, and then they still were very, very conservative in terms of COVID response. So how did they really affect the food system, so to say, here?
Thank you, Dr. Divesh. I think that was a full presentation by itself. We'll go with Bernie and Lani, and then to Dr. Kanika.
Yes, we had a short caucus. Yes, we fully agree, Dr. Briones. Well, of course, in Laos, it's a different case than in the Philippines. They have this, as I was saying to Dr. Roy, a latecomer advantage because they already learn from other countries on how to organize. So now there is only one national network, starting to federate a long value chain. So they organize Lao Farmer Network, KO is here, but they form a commodity-based network and they network this commodity-based association. So learning from other cases. And of course, Vietnam, you have the Vietnam Farmers Union with 10 million plus members, all under the banner of the NFU. So it's a different case. But going back to the Philippines, yes, 20% of farmers are organized. And of the organized farmers, still not all of them are federated. Some are not part of a national federation. And even those who are federated, some are only policy advocacy. They are not providing really palpable economic services. No? So that is the problem. But this will continue as long as the federated structure cannot provide services to farmers. Because how will I be encouraged? If I am a farmer to be part of a farmers organization if that farmer organization does not provide me a service, no? And it's like a chicken and egg. And if we do not help this existing federation to build their capacity to provide economic services, then the unaffiliated, unorganized farmers will not have the incentive to become part of organization. Thus, our advocacy is really not to have more national organization, but have a more small organization, but federate them and give them a business development services capacity by, well, there are many ways, no? Well, the Cooperative Development Authority, there is this, and there are also other registering agency, perhaps giving them a graduated scale, no? Like if you are in level 1, then this is a package of services that are available for you. But the end result is really to strengthen this federated structure because they lessen the transaction cost if this structure is strengthened. No? So yeah, we fully agree, and we our suggestion is to support a federated structure so that they can provide services and become reliable service provider.
Thank you, Lani. So over to Dr. Kanika. Dr. Kanika, would you like to respond to both the questions at one go?
Yes, I'll respond to both the questions. Thank you. So on the first question, no, at least for this particular study, we were only looking at 1.5 months after the national lockdown, and by that time, at least in India, mini kiosks, etc., had not really strengthened that much. It was still a period where there were labor shortages, etc., and a lot of strengthening of these local kirana shops, according to my understanding, happened, down, a few months down the line, not immediately after the first lockdown. On the question about warehousing, I agree with you fully. I think instead of warehousing, what I meant was cold storage. If you look at India and some of the statistics for India, I don't have them ready right now with me, but I know that cold storage capacity in India is very low, and there is a large produce, even on an average, that goes for a waste in the country. And I think just building more capacity can help the country withstand not just pandemics, but other natural disasters as well, which can lead to sort of wastage of these perishable products. But of course, a fuller cost benefit analysis perhaps needs a deeper understanding of the costs involved as well. On Devesh's question on edible oils, now again, this is, at least for this particular study, the period was much shorter. And what we found in our research is that a lot of these oils are imported, but a lot of processing happens in India, in many of these manufacturing plants actually. So while they had available oil, because availability of oilseeds, because these production or these manufacturing centers still stock up. It's not like I will only have oilseeds for the next 1 week. They do have stocks going into the future. So perhaps an initial disruption in international trade didn't really affect that part. And as you said rightly, it bounced back pretty quickly. So we did see that after 1.5 to 2 months, international trade in oilseeds had bounced back, and again we see imports in India. So again, during this time period, because of these stocking up, we don't think that imports per se were a problem. It was just within India, transportation from these manufacturing plants to these final retail points of sale that we think was the main concern here. So I hope I've understood the question correctly and answered it correctly. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mahajan. Dr. Tran?
Yes, thanks. I'd like to respond to Dr. David Roy's questions on comments. I think on Vietnam trade policy, I think it's related to rise export in 2020. We have some restriction by that time when the COVID-19 just have just started, and in my view, it's like react toward an unknown enemy. By the time we have little information on how the disease will affect and how long it will be, and how should we cope with that. So food security is the top priority in the policy, and rice is the most important food intake of Vietnamese population. So I understand it's like just the first reaction to the disaster, and it's due to the information problem. As in my presentation, I proposed the improve in market information system, and that should include the supply monitor. I think with the digitalization and the availability of like satellite image, and we have more tools to have better understand of the situation, and more being confirmed about the supply capacity of farmers. And that's why I think the trade restriction just happened in very short time, less than a month, as I remember. And until now, we do not have something like that anymore. And the government policy is quite flexible. And we also move from zero COVID to like a double approach for disease control, but have to concern about the economic development too. So I think the policy is changing, and try to cope with the changing situation. I hope that answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Trang. It does answer. Anyway, we don't have time to take up more questions. And thank you to all the 4 speakers. Thank you so much. With this, we end this session now, and we move to the next session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ladies. So next, we will skip session 4 and we will go directly to have a poster presentation, thesis grantees. May I check, Ms. Sahida, are you here with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your patience.
Yeah, I will share my slide.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
okay.
yes, you may share your screen.
Can everybody see my poster here in Malaysia? I'm from Malaysia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
How many,
you may start.
how many minutes of the presentation?
Can you do it 5 minutes?
Yeah, I'll try.
Okay, thank you.
For sure. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's such an honor for me to present my PhD project entitled The Growth and Maturation Process of Purple Passion Fruit Through Physical and Metabolomic Approaches. And I'm Shahida, and I'm supervised by Associate Professor Dr. Phoebe Ding. And I did my PhD study at University Putra Malaysia in the Faculty of Agriculture. So my study is about the passion fruit, so known as the Passiflora adolescens. And in Malaysia, the fruit has not yet produced up to commercial scale level, so that we have inadequate information about the fruit to be grown in commercial scale level. The fruit has rapid deterioration, and around 18 to 28% of post-harvest loss occur as soon after the fruit detached from the plant. And during the global trading, Malaysia suffers around 17 to 35% of income loss during the local and global fresh fruit trading. Therefore, prior to commercial scale cultivation, it is important to assist the growers in Malaysia to produce high quality fruits. Thus, the study of my PhD was outlined into 3 main objectives. The first one is to characterize the growth and development of the fruit, and in order to determine the most optimal harvesting stage of the fruit. And then the second objectives continue with the identification and quantification of metabolites that are responsible for the development of the fruits. And the third objective is to understand how the metabolites affects the fruit quality and being utilized for the industries. And according to the methods, 3 main methodologies were applied, which we use the physical assessment, chemical assessment, and metabolite assessment and quantification. Physical assessment and chemical assessment are studying on the post-harvest quality in order to produce fruit that can meet the local and global trading, local and global post-harvest quality for export. And based on the result, it's find out that the passion fruits obtained maturity at 56 days, and fruit harvested at this stage can be considered as having a complete physical development, but it's produced the minimal eating quality. However, fruit at this stage will preserve to have a longer post-harvest life, and it is mostly suited for the long-distance market. While for the fruits harvested at 63 days, it's considered as mature, and it possesses, however, it approaching the senescence stage, and therefore it has a shorter post-harvest life, and therefore food harvested at 63 days is much more suitable for the short distance market. And studying on the metabolites that present in the fruit, it shows that the fruit is considered as nutritious fruit, and it's rich with primary and secondary metabolites. And we find out that each of the fruit component, either the juice, the seed, and the peel, are equally function in industrial usage. It could be used in the beyond the orthodox beverages industry, where the fuel, for example, could be used as active ingredients in the cosmetic industry, and the seed can be used as the pharmaceutical products and multiple function of natural fruit ingredients. In conclusion, this study is expected to benefit the Malaysian growers to produce high quality fruit that can penetrate the global market, and the passion fruit itself can be classified as superfood or multifunction fruit that can benefit multiple industry in Malaysia. Before I end my presentation, I would like to extend my gratitude towards Syakar and DAAD that are fully funding my study through during this whole PhD journey. With that, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shaida. We wish you a great luck and success for your PhD study.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, we will start with the next session is the NPSC representatives video, the ATMI-ASEAN project shaping policies and programs in the ASEAN region in Vietnam.
Theo Cục Chăn nuôi Bộ Nông nghiệp và Phát triển Nông thôn, năm 2016, tổng đàn lợn của cả nước đạt 29,1 triệu con. Năm 2017, do khủng hoảng dư cung, tổng đàn lợn giảm xuống 27,4 triệu con. Năm 2018, con số này tăng nhẹ đạt 28,1 triệu con. Sau đó năm 2019 lại tiếp tục giảm sâu kỷ lục do dịch tả lợn châu Phi, còn 19,6 triệu con. Đến năm 2020, tổng đàn lợn của cả nước phục hồi nhẹ với 22 triệu con và tăng trưởng trở lại vào năm 2021 với 28 triệu con. Sản lượng thịt lợn hơi xuất chuồng cũng giảm.
Xin cảm ơn quý vị. Vậy thì bây giờ chúng ta sẽ kết thúc ngày 1 ở đây.
The first day only, and we will have the second day tomorrow. So we will wait for you in the same time again. Please join us on Zoom, and also for participants here, please join us again at the same time at 1 p.m. And now I will invite the participants in Hanoi in this room to join dinner at 7 in the 19th floor on the Summit Restaurant, 19th floor. Okay, thank you. So see you again tomorrow.
Recording stopped.